If you want to buy original games while saving a lot, check out Instant Gaming, the digital store that sells games for various platforms, such as PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Get games of all genres with discounts of up to 95%. You'll also find a variety of gift cards and credits for other services. You can pay for your order through your credit card on a website with a 4.7 rating on Trustpilot. You're buying games directly from Instant Gaming, not from other retailers. If you encounter any issues, Instant Gaming offers 24/7 support. What are you waiting for to save? Hello, welcome. As I mentioned some time ago, the Citron development team has been working to make Unreal Engine-developed games playable on both Windows and Android. On Windows, much of this project has already been implemented. However, for those who play on Android, these updates had not yet arrived, primarily because the system's drivers were still very incompatible with Unreal Engine games, causing several graphical issues. That's when Camille collaborated with another big name in optimization in the scene, someone many of you may already know, the famous Mr. Purple. This partnership brought new drivers, allowing both to work on optimizations and improvements. As a result, fixes were made for several Unreal Engine games running on Android. This driver was made available only on the Citron Discord, and I'll leave the link so you can obtain it and do your own tests. In today's video, using the pre-release version of Citron 0.5, which I imagine will be released in the coming weeks, I will show a showcase of these games that previously had issues on Android, and now, even on a device that is already 3 generations outdated, like my Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, they can be played even in native resolution. Quickly talking about Citron for those who don't know it yet, the project is not just another fake Yuzu fork. It has already brought many innovations, such as a frame generator on Android, is working on local multiplayer, among other improvements. It is an authentic project, and I can guarantee that to you. Test it for yourself before drawing conclusions based on opinions from other content creators who don't believe in the project. Regarding our recording setup, I'm capturing everything with an external capture card. The games are being loaded from a USB drive with a read speed of 550 megabytes per second, ensuring there are no losses compared to the recording software. The resolution used for all the games is 720p. The device used for the test is a ROG Phone, equipped with Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, as mentioned earlier, with 8 GB of RAM. An external cooler was also used to maintain the ideal temperature during the long hours of capture. I talked about the recording setup in the video on the card, which you can check right after this one. Talking about our list, I'm not sure if all the games were completely unplayable before or if they could only get to the menu, but I had already tested some of them, and many didn't work properly or had issues starting. Before we start the list, don't forget to leave a like so that this content reaches even more people. And if this is your first time here, consider subscribing to the channel to keep up with future videos. Starting with Crash Bandicoot for It's About Time, I had tested this game on Android in the past, and there were many issues with objects, performance below expectations, and even random crashes. Now, in the new versions, the crashes did not occur, at least not on my device. The gameplay is almost at 100% speed. There are still performance issues, mainly due to the lack of a better GPU on my device, which is somewhat outdated by current standards. However, nothing that couldn't be resolved if the resolution were reduced to 75%. Overall, there is only one problem: the game colors are a little darker than they should be. But I've already reported this to Camille, who found the issue. It was confirmed that it's a driver bug, which could be fixed in a future update. Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, on the other hand, had already been tested on Android before, and the game was already playable. However, since I tested all the games in the Crash franchise, I couldn't leave this one out. The performance is very good, using only 50% of my GPU, which means I could play even with a higher FPS, since this game runs natively with dynamic FPS, or even increase the resolution to 1080p while enabling the portable mode. Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy. I had also tested in the past, and the gameplay had graphical issues and lag. However, to my surprise, when testing the game in the new build with the new drivers, I played through an entire level of Crash 3, and there were no issues in this game. The performance reached a solid 30 FPS, with some GPU headroom, which means I could even slightly increase the resolution. The only thing that really bothered me was the resolution in portable mode, but that was only noticeable because I was mirroring the game on a PC monitor. For playing on small phone screens, the experience will be very good. Camille asked me to test Dragon Ball FighterZ without the hacks that make the game playable. Unfortunately, this test resulted in a crash right after the fighter presentation. This test was requested to assess the compatibility of this new driver, since the game is also developed with Unreal Engine. On the other hand, when using this new driver on the modified version of the game, we get decent performance. I'd say the game is getting more optimized, now running with around 60% GPU usage, which means it could easily be scaled to 1080p with this new combination of drivers. Recently, I was asked to test the newly released Guilty Gear Strive. I don't know if this game had problems in the past, but now it runs well. However, I noticed some objects have disproportionate brightness. But overall, the gameplay is perfect. If you want to play this game, you can do it with the newest firmware, as you won't encounter any major issues. And a correction from the last video, where I made a comparison between Citron and Sudachi on Android. I had said that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe wasn't running correctly on Android. With Camille's help, we concluded that my ROM was corrupted. So, I re-downloaded the game, and here we are, with decent gameplay. There are some moments where the infamous freezes happen, but overall, you will be able to play successfully, either alone or with friends locally. Mortal Kombat 11, at least for me, is running on Android for the first time. If you try with other drivers, the game won't even get past the loading screen. However, with the new drivers mentioned, the game gets to gameplay. The speed is decent but still not 100%. There are some lighting issues, with certain squares appearing depending on the lighting method applied to the character. I played a few rounds, and the game is stable, the speed is decent, playable, even with some remaining issues during execution. Camille also suggested testing Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet. I'll admit I'm a fan of this anime, though I haven't watched all the seasons. Speaking about the game, it's known for having an extremely long tutorial, so I didn't record after the tutorial. With other drivers, there were issues with environmental occlusion and lighting. However, with Mr. Purple's driver, the game ran normally, with good speed, at least in this enclosed area of the tutorial. More testing in open areas is needed to see how the game performs. If you're playing this game, leave a comment telling me about your experience. Sonic Colors Ultimate has issues in the menu with some characters and objects flickering. During gameplay, the game behaves decently but is a bit unstable. I think the blur in this new version is somewhat exaggerated. I previously finished the game on the Wii version, and using texture packs, I can say with certainty that the visual quality is much cleaner, and the textures are decent. However, this option will only be viable on PC. For Android, you can use some Dolphin Fork, but those emulators are still poorly optimized. Or you can play this version on Citron, which will offer better performance. Sonic Forces, in other tests I ran, also showed results below expectations. Now, the game is playable, but still not in perfect condition. Some objects, both characters and distant objects, are still not rendered correctly and load without textures. The game's performance is above expectations, with solid 30 FPS most of the time, unless it's compiling shaders. GPU usage often stays below 50%, meaning it could easily be scaled to 1080p without problems, and there would still be GPU headroom. Sonic Superstars, which hadn't appeared on the channel since its release, also saw an impressive performance boost. Where there were previously several performance drops, it is now possible to run it again with solid 60 FPS, using about 30% of the GPU, leaving plenty of headroom to either increase the resolution or unlock the FPS, as you prefer. Team Sonic Racing was another game that had been performing well below average and is now fully playable. I noticed no graphic or performance issues. However, in this case, my GPU was at 100% usage, so if there are any tracks with heavier environments, it might be necessary to lower the resolution a bit to maintain smoother gameplay. Sonic Frontiers is very unstable. Sometimes, I can load the game and play without issues, and other times the game crashes on the first loading screen. So if you're testing it, include it in your list and see if it's playable for you. I didn't present any gameplay for it, as the game simply refused to start when I tried recording. Clearing shaders didn't fix the problem. Some games tested in Unreal Engine had issues or couldn't run at all. One example is No Man's Sky, which crashes after the first loading screen and doesn't show any gameplay. The two recent Tomb Raider remakes still have lighting issues. I have reported it to the development team, but no solution has been found yet. And that's the list of games for today. If you have other games that started working with the new update and new drivers, leave them in the comments. Thanks for your audience, and see you in the next video.